My name is Dan Stansel. I'm head of the Electrical and Computer Engineering Department, and it's my pleasure to welcome you to the Fall 2010 ECE graduation ceremony. We're really pleased today to have a very distinguished person to be our graduation speaker, a person who has some very deep ties to ECE and to the university. After graduating from NC State with a BS degree in electrical engineering, Dr. Larry Monteith was a member of the technical staff at Bell Telephone Labs, where he was assigned projects relating to surface-to-air missiles systems and to Telstar. In 1962, he joined the Solid-State Electronics Lab at the Research Triangle Institute, where he investigated for NASA the buildup in dielectric materials of charged particles to determine when and if a discharge might occur when exposed in space, and developed micrometeoroid detectors for spacecraft applications. While working, he obtained a master's in 1962 and a PhD in 1965 from Duke. He joined the faculty in the Department of Electrical Engineering at NC State in 1968, where his research was devoted mainly to sensors derived from solid-state electronic materials. Subsequently, he served as head of electrical engineering, dean of engineering, and chancellor of the university before retiring in 1998. After retirement, Dr. Monteith has devoted a great deal of his 12 years to entrepreneurial activities. He has served on boards, loaned, invested, and worked to assist startup companies. For the past 4 years, his attention has become a passion in the writing of a book about the pursuit of prosperity by Americans and North Carolinians during the past 400 years. The title of the book may be, How Did We Get to Be So Entrepreneurial? It's my real deep pleasure to introduce to you Dr. Larry Monteith.
Thank you, Dan. I have never seen so many smart people in one room. Now, I don't mean all of you up here, because I know all of you back there passed on your intelligence to all these up here. So that all those smart people back there, thank you for sending all these people to NC State. Now I have to admit something. When they asked me to come and speak, I made an assumption that I would be speaking only to BS students. So this is useless. You're going to test me for the next few minutes to see if I can have anything to say when I have nothing to say from this. Let me see. No, I think I can come up with something. For those of you who wear the striped sleeves, thank you for coming to NC State, because you have the greatest risk in doing so. Because when you leave here, you'll have the fewest opportunities. You have come to the pinnacle of education. You probably are worth between $500,000 and $700,000 of education dollars have been invested in you. And people are going to expect you to come there and do really wonderful things based upon your education at NC State. Now, I don't mean to demean you in saying they're limited. It's just that those kind of activities happen at fewer places. Now, for you in the, I guess that's red, around your collar, what is NC State's red called? There must be some adjective before it. Oh, you don't know, huh? Wolfpack red, okay. With a Wolfpack red around your collar. A little history of that. When I was a baccalaureate graduate, they tried to give you your specialist as an undergraduate. And we were in class for 150 hours with quite a bit of specialty in our undergraduate program, but not nearly enough to leave the university and really be of great value to the person who hired us. I'll get to that in a moment. But many of you have come back, or maybe went on from your undergraduate degree to get a specialty. Very wise on your part, because a lot of the opportunities today are just that, specialties. Looking for someone who has the knowledge base to come to this industry with something that they're generally not available among the people they've already hired. So thank you for coming. You have more than the striped arms. And when you leave, you will be rewarded for your education. I'm guessing that you're worth $350,000, give or take a few dollars. Now, those of you in Wolfpack Red, you graduated from high school before you came here. And your high school education in North Carolina cost about $120,000. And your parents paid taxes for many years to support you to go to school. And then you came here, they and you struggled with this cost to be here. And you spent another $80,000 of the taxpayers' money in North Carolina, or the interest on the endowment, or what your parents and you paid. And then you probably spent another $50,000. So you're valuable people, and you have the largest number of opportunities for jobs. But when you get there, you're going to find you're not the specialist that these people are. And you'll be considered one who is developing. Now, I did prepare for you, and I'll get to you in a moment. But I want to say something to the parents first, which I did prepare a little bit for you. You've got to be very proud today. I know that you've struggled for years and wanted this day to come. And in America, there are too few who get this opportunity. Only about 30% of Americans have a baccalaureate degree. Yeah, only about a third of us. And most of that has happened with these last few generations, because many of us, and I look around, there are not many of you, if any of you, of my age. I don't mind telling you, I'm 78. Go ahead and tell me I don't look like it. I appreciate that. Thank you. But my wife is here. Stand, Nancy. And she doesn't look it either. We enjoyed the 30 years here at NC State. I came here directly out of the Navy, and we had the intention of enrolling when I got here, but they wouldn't let me in because I had a debt at another school. So she worked and I worked for a year before I could get in. But that's another story that I might get to a little later. But anyway, to the parents, about 60% of the high school students go to college, and a little over half of the ones who go graduate. So education is a very inefficient process that costs all of us a whole lot of money. So we must do something to make it much more efficient, because it's very, very expensive and also very, very valuable to our country. We need more of these, and we will need more of them as our future unfolds. But today we're going to celebrate that they've made it, and I'm so proud of them. I'm glad to be here. Now I'm going to look at my notes a bit because I'm way off schedule. Please give me a moment. I guess I could continue. I wanted to give a message to the faculty. They are the people that makes the university work for us, all the people that have positions like myself and Dan, we're just organizers. We try to make things work so that faculty can do their work and students can achieve the education that they're here to get. But the faculty are the ones in the classrooms. They're the ones that these students depended upon. They have no way to know when they come here that all of these faculty know what they say they know. They will be able to test it when they leave here, but they don't know that. So it's our responsibility to choose them. And we know they know what they know because so many of them have recognition from their peers, fellows of the Institute of Electrical, what is it? Electrical and Electronic Engineering. They'll throw me out now, I know that. And we have members of the National Academy of Engineering. And recently, we had one go to Washington, get the Medal of Technology, highest in the country, right here teaching these students. And we get millions of dollars every year to support these faculty. The people who support them wouldn't give it to them if they weren't among the best. Now, a lot of people argue about whether this faculty who gets all this money to do research, whether that interrupts teaching. Well, it could. I mean, honestly, it could. But when I went to school, I was very pleased that faculty were doing research because I was there at the time that computers and lasers and all others things were emerging. And they weren't in textbooks. I had to depend on faculty to bring that to the classroom who were doing the research. If they didn't do the research, they'd be teaching things that were 5 or 10 years old. So you must depend on research to keep these people prepared to go into their job and know what the future is going to be, not just what is happening now. So I want to thank them, and I hope that the students, when this is over, would go up to them, shake their hands, and say, thank you. I appreciate what you've done for me. I'm depending on you and what you taught me. Now, I was a member of this faculty at one time. I don't know why I'm not a member now. I know that I'm not dead. The only thing I can assume is because I became a dean and department head, they made the assumption that the qualities to do that meant that I was inept to do this. Is that right? No? Well, I just wondered. I don't know what it is about older people, why we want to tell these young people what they would benefit from if we told them what they ought to do. But that's not going to stop me. Even though you probably aren't going to pay any attention, I'm going to tell you 2 things that I think are important in your life. One of them is something I learned very early, and it made my life much easier. Now, some of you want to leave here and simply follow the path of wanting to get the money and spend it, have a good life. But I'm here to tell you that you need to invest some of it. You're young. I'm almost 80. If I'd invested $10 when I was your age, I don't know how much it would be, but it'd be a lot larger. When I graduated from Duke, or went to Duke with a master's degree, I had left Bell Labs with stock that they let you buy at a predated price. And I had kept it. And I used it when I went to the Research Triangle with five other couples to buy a farm. We split it up. It cost us $4,300 each. 20 years later, it paid for all the education of my 3 children. The only lesson there is put something away while you're young instead of using it all for those things that you postponed here. Let it work for you. You're going to need it before you know about it. Some of you probably already have, let's see. Well, maybe some of you have children. There are a few of you. Any of you have children? Oh, yeah. Well, before you know it, education's going to be knocking on your door. And you're going to want them to get everything that you had. Ask your parents how much it cost them. But get busy. Now the second one. I had prepared it for the undergraduates, but it applies to all of them. To really enjoy your life, as I have, you're going to have to depend on opportunities. You can't always make them for yourself. They're going to come whizzing by you. And you're going to have to prepare for them. And I want to share with you a few that I prepared for and how I went about it. And it might be a little funny, maybe something that you in the dark red will run into. When I graduated from here, within a few weeks, they gave me a job which I could have done in junior high school. And therefore, I immediately asked, why did I get a degree in engineering? I'm sure it's because they didn't yet know what they were going to do with me, because I didn't have a specialty that they could immediately identify. Then they gave me a project, and I'll tell you simply what they told me. We have a production line 75 miles from here, and the product does meet the federal requirements. Go fix it. So I drove, and I found out that it was something called immediate frequency amplifier. Now, I know today that doesn't mean anything to you. Didn't mean anything to me either. But I really wondered, can I do this? This was my test. You'll have your test. You won't know what it is, but have you been educated to do it? That's the real question. So I began to ask, how am I going to handle this? Well, I better find out what it is. Then once I find out what it is, I better find out how to work and test it. Then once I can start testing it, I better find out what's wrong with it. Well, in 2 days, I was successful. Then I wrote this story about this thinking, oh, I have done such a good job. I'm going to really get promoted. So I gave it to my boss. And he called me in and said, Larry, I'm so proud of what you did. I am so disappointed in what you've written. I said, why? He said, this doesn't need to be an English essay. This should be an engineering report. We don't talk in adverbs and adjectives. We just want to know what it is. I'm saying, I don't know what I'm doing here. So the only point I'm making is that engineering, as you're going to come into it, is not exactly what they've taught you. But they've taught you how to approach the problem. And you're going to have to learn that on your own, and you're going to get your opportunities from doing it and doing it well. Well, since after 2 years, I left that job. They had never laid off anyone, and they always told people that they didn't. And I went to take a job in which you had to get all your own money. No one paid your salary. And it was a new laboratory that no one funded. And I worked there 6 years before I went to the university. Now, I had taught at Elon College, at General Electric at night, at Bell Labs at night, and in the graduate program at NC State. But I'd never thought about being a professor. Never crossed my mind until they asked me. I didn't realize I was preparing to be a professor. But when I went to that job where I had to get my own funding and decide what to do, and when I taught at all those places, what was I preparing to be? Professors? That's what they do. So what I'm saying to you is that there are things that you will have the opportunity to do that may be preparing you for that as well. Most of us don't live a planned life. I admire, every once in a while they bring on TV this young child that is beyond belief in what they can do. And so their life is planned for them. They're going to be great at something. They're going to have a wonderful life in doing it. And now, but I have relied on opportunities, and I think you will too. And all I'm suggesting to you is that you need to get prepared for them. I used to tell my sons that they could do anything before they were 35, and they could fail at it. And I wanted them to be entrepreneurs, but by 35, they needed to have a regular income or already be a millionaire. So many of you may want to be entrepreneurs. Tom Miller, you're a faculty member in electrical and computer engineering, teaches a class in entrepreneurism. But let me tell you, having funded entrepreneurs, and some of them have been students, it's a very risky business. And especially if you have debt and you have to pay it on a regular basis. So if any of you are looking at that, I suggest that you give it a hard look. Now's the time while you're young, you're not 35. You probably don't have house payments. You don't have children to raise. Some of you don't have marriages yet to decide how you're going to get your housing and other things. So this might be the time to do it. So I guess in this sort of rambling, not prepared the way that I'm giving it to you, I'll sum this up and say that your education for pay is just in the beginning. And no matter how trivial or complex, and even if you may not know where you're headed, until quite some time later, because I worked 8 years from the BS before I became certain that I wanted to be a college professor. And I worked in 2 companies with different responsibilities and opportunities. The 4 positions at NC State required different management skills and public relations. I was never quite certain that I wanted to be department head or dean or chancellor because I was never thinking of doing any one of those things until the opportunity came along. I would guess that one other thing that I would like to tell you briefly about my career that is kind of interesting, that if it hadn't happened, I would have never done anything. I had a scholarship to go to Vanderbilt, but I gave it up for a lot of reasons and joined the Navy. Well, gave it up and started selling women's shoes, which looked like a more productive career. And then joined the Navy. And while in the Navy, I had the choice of going to the Aviation Electronics School to teach other sailors how to repair electronics equipment. But they wouldn't let me do it unless they sent me to 6 weeks of charm school. And in that charm school, you had to stand before 20 or 30 sailors and describe inanimate objects for about 15 minutes. Try it sometimes. Anything. A rock, a broom, 15 minutes. And then you had, oh, and by the way, after you did it, the sailors were the critics to describe what you had just done. And then it began to be lecturing on electrical circuits to them. And they got to criticize how well you did it and if they'd learned anything. Eventually, I got to teach for 26 weeks in the aviation electronics school. If I hadn't done that, see, I'm really a shy person, an introvert. Yeah, I'm doing this today, but let me tell you, it isn't easy for me. It takes a lot of energy out of me, always has. When I get through today, I will feel like I've run a mile. So that I learned how to, as an introvert, to do that and do it in a way that I could succeed. And if I hadn't done that, I do not believe I ever experienced anything else that would have forced me to leave that introvert behind. Weird, isn't it? Just another thing that happened in my life that ended up putting me here today that some of you will run into when you leave. You know, it's kind of weird when you prepared a presentation that seems so outstanding to you, and then suddenly you realize that you've got to say something entirely different. But I'm going to summarize this by saying that for that you, all of you, as graduates of electrical and computer engineering, you've prepared, which prepares you to begin to choose where and how you want to educate yourself, with or without instruction, online, at a night school, a community college, a professional school, a graduate school, or on the job. The next 50 years are going to be exciting for you. Any of these will be available to you. And some of you, even the striped sleeves with a PhD, might decide to go to business school. And that'd be a real bang-up career. During the decades ahead, these things are and will dominate public attention. The cost of education, which we just talked about. In our state, it is creating enormous discussion politically about how we can afford it with the numbers I've thrown out. Multiply it by the thousands and thousands that we need to educate. Lost my place. The growing number of people like me. I've forgotten now how many of them are going to live to be over 100. Can you imagine us taking care of our parents, our grandparents, our great-grandparents, as they are over 100, growing in larger and larger numbers? Energy. We have the energy center here, but our demand on energy for the kind of world we're trying to produce is going to be a debate for many years to come. And world order. It looks like things are being stirred in the pot of who and what kind of countries we're going to have for many years to come. And things are changing at a faster and faster pace, much faster than when I was young. When I was young, you could depend on things for decades. Now it looks like maybe a year or two. With change comes opportunities. You are at the cusp of searching for a new normal for our society. Things normal don't happen anymore. But we're looking for it. We're looking for things that will last for a few years. So investors will invest. So people will start companies. We need those normals for our culture and for our economy. For the things that you will get attention, that you will pay attention to, will be great discoveries in life sciences, medical science. Medical science, I've had 10 operations since I've retired. You might say, well, that's why we're paying so much for old people. You're right. I'm sure that I've cost as much as the PhDs since I retired, maybe more. Longevity, replacement of human parts at Wake Forest, their growing livers, superstar educators. One way to reduce costs, have one great teacher. Complete mapping of the functions in the brain. Boy, we'd like to make us all smart. It's a great temptation. Oh, but it's risky. Everything super large or super small. It's just part of our wanting to know. It seems like it's going to get larger and larger and smaller and smaller. Nano everything, complexity to the extreme. I'm not sure how extreme it can get, but it's way beyond my ability to think about it. Energy in every form, everywhere. Maybe we'll carry our own with us. Expansion of self-tutoring, much like home schooling. We've got to find a way to make it not so big, but affordable. And tiered public colleges. A college that can get better than 50% graduation. Electrical and computer engineers will be either lead or be embedded in every part of this future. You will have the same excitement as my life with the application of integrated circuits, computers, sensors, software, control systems applied to everything. Everything. But they were all digital. For decades, and they started out all analog. So all of us who graduated was analog all this, we had to become digital all this. For decades, we have lived as if cost did not matter. Just pass it along to the next generation. To achieve an affordable new normal in our country, everything must be driven by performance and cost. From the first electrical engineer at Cornell in the 1880s, performance and cost have been the priorities which sustains our profession. Just a moment. I'm not responsible for the fact that I'm speaking without a script, so blame it on Dan. We needed industrial engineers in the 1800s because the bridges were falling, because we had no one who used the right theory to design them. The ships and other things were blowing up in the 1800s in mechanical systems run by the diesels, not diesels. What did I call them? Well, okay. I'm old enough to say I've forgotten what it's called. But they blew up. So we got mechanical engineers. We got electrical engineers because of the Morse, Bell, Tesla, and others to give us electricity, because electricity was dangerous too. We needed professionals to do it. So these engineers have been put in place after things began happening to do it with performance and cost, affordable, and safety. So all of these things are going to drive the need for you. You're not going to have to drive them. They're going to be there looking for you. You're going to be extremely valuable. I'm about to get there. Now, I am very proud to be a graduate of this department. And I've already said that you should say thanks to your faculty. When someone asks me what I am in terms of my profession, whether I was department head, dean, or chancellor, I always say I'm an electrical engineer. Now, in good faith, I can't claim the computer part because I'm afraid they'll see me as a fraud. You know, I'd have to be able to reincarnate because computers were not developed when I graduated. But I'm proud of the fact that we have computer engineering in our name. If they ask me what I do for a living, I say 5 or 6 different opportunities for applying my skills as an engineer. I'm an engineer as a chancellor. I'm an engineer as a dean. I'm an engineer. Everything I do because I was trained to be an engineer. Now, I'm going to end asking for your giving me the privilege of speaking to you and apologizing for not asking beforehand that I was going to have sort of a mixed audience. But I'm proud of the fact that I was able to speak to you. Now, I wish one other thing. I have had a great life. Nancy and I have enjoyed it from our $60 marriage when we eloped to this day, when we will have a 60-year married life this year in 3 months, and we'll both be 80 years old. So you've got to give us a little slack and admit that what I've done today, this is the last time I will ever do it. I would have never done this for any other occasion. My mind, my speech, and my body won't let me do it. So thank you.